A special panel in South Africa tasked with establishing whether President Cyril Ramaphosa should face impeachment for allegedly covering up a crime has now submitted its findings to Parliament. A three-person team led by an ex-Chief Justice hands its report to National Assembly Speaker Mmusi and addresses the press. The report is now read from our studio. This panel was set up in September to probe the 2020 alleged cover-up of theft at Ramaphosa's farmhouse, a scandal that has tarnished the president's reputation and overshadowed his bid for re-election at the helm of the ruling African National Congress, the ANC party. It was tasked with ascertaining whether there was sufficient evidence to show that the president committed a serious violation of the constitution or the law, or a serious misconduct, according to Mmusi. Ramaphosa has, however, denied any wrongdoing.
Dragging the president before an impeachment process is a huge decision. It cannot be done on flimsy grounds. There has to be something tangible that you can hold on to before you take that decision.
The panel, tasked with establishing whether South African President Cyril Ramaphosa should face impeachment for allegedly covering up a crime, has now submitted its findings to Parliament. The three-person team, led by an ex-Chief Justice, handed its report to National Assembly Speaker Mmusi at a televised ceremony in Cape Town.
When we announced that today we'll be receiving this report from the panel, independent panel, we then also announced that on the 6th, by the way, even there was consultation with all political parties, and it was agreed to that on the 6th, which is next week, Tuesday, this report will be tabled before the Assembly.
Earlier this month, presidential spokesman Vincent Magwenya told journalists that Ramaphosa would gladly step aside if he were to be criminally charged. The report's filing comes only 2 weeks before the ANC, which has been in power since the end of apartheid, convenes to elect a new leader. Ramaphosa came to power in 2018 on a promise of tackling graft. He succeeded Jacob Zuma, who was forced to resign by the ANC on the back of a string of corruption scandals.
After having received the report as political parties, I will go through the report as the office of the chief whip and call caucus to brief caucus what is the content of the report. At the moment, we'll be shooting from the dark because we don't know what the report is all about, but we are going to take the process forward up until the 6th.
According to the Speaker, the report will be sent within 24 hours to lawmakers, who will then examine the findings in a one-day sitting on December 6. The outcome could lead to a potential vote to remove the president, which, to be successful, would require a 2/3 majority in the National Assembly, where the ANC holds most seats. Blessings Mmusi, reporting for News Central. And now, still on this development, political analyst and head of journalism program, Cape Peninsula University of Technology, Cape Town, Hermon Ogbamichael, and opposition leader and founder of Build One South Africa, Mmusi Maimane, joins me on the news for more on this. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Good afternoon to you too. Thank you for joining me. Now, let's start off with Mr. Maimane. Now, the verdicts are in and, talking about the Phala farm saga, and we've seen so far what it has been. So my question to you, Mr. Maimane, is what exactly is the outcome of the result? We've seen a lot of dragging here and there, but what exactly is their stance as at this moment?
Well, I think we must understand the matter in twofold. The first is that there's a political process and a legal process. On a legal front, Parliament amended its own rules to allow for an impeachment inquiry process. And given the recommendation, Parliament has to establish a Section 89 committee and narrowly investigate that. And the allegations against the president are quite significant and are serious. Because in all fairness, this was about a foreign currency found in the president, a potential violation of financial transactions in terms of the Reserve Bank. This is a challenge in terms of how the matter was investigated. And furthermore, whether the president himself is in violation of Section 92, which forces him to hold another form of employment outside his job as president. These are serious legal issues that need to be dealt with. There's a second political issue, which means that I think in actual fact, the president has lost his firm footing on his own party, and more seriously, the confidence of Parliament and the people of this country. And therefore, I would urge that as a step going forward, the president needs to take considerable action as to how this matter must be handled. For South Africa cannot afford to be dragged into a 6-month political debacle as the ANC sorts itself out. And that's the recommendation that we need to establish a transitional government that will ensure that we can move towards election sooner rather than later for the stability of the country.
I mean, talking about taking considerable actions, it's quite ironic, Mr. Maimane, that now we hear that the president is deciding to excuse himself from the engagement with Parliament. So what does this indicate?
It indicates the first step to a long process. That's why I say politically the president has lost confidence, because the cancellation of the National Council of Provinces, that the president knows his arrival at that meeting will only be about one conversation, whether he should resign or not. And ultimately, it will never be about what the National Council of Provinces sitting was designed for today, which is to effect accountability. So there is only one issue, which is about Phala. And in truth, South Africa faces many challenges, the economy, safety, and many of those. If the president is not able to come and account on that and can only account on one narrow matter, which is that of Phala, it is indicative of the fact that the president has politically lost the confidence of not only his parliament, but the people in his own party. So I would urge that this is an indicator of the fact that even next year, during the State of the Nation address, the president won't be able to table that. Any question and answer session in the National Assembly, the president would never be able to attend to that. Therefore, it is vital for the clearing up of this matter that a decision be made, a transitional government be in place, and the president needs to take time aside to be able to evaluate what happens here. And I really, coming out of a place where I uphold the office of the president and uphold President Ramaphosa, do feel that in this instance, he needs to do the right thing and the honorable thing.
All right, let me now go to you, Mr. Hermon. And as a journalist, political analyst, I would like for you to help us analyze the situation. Now, the presidency statement says that the Section 89 has presented an unprecedented and an extraordinary moment for South Africa's constitution. So should South Africans be worried about the constitutional crisis right now? Do they worry that, the constitution is currently in crisis?
Well, from my opinion, it looks like it's a political statement, because Section 89 of the Constitution clearly allows for the removal of a sitting president on grounds of serious violations of the Constitution, of the law. And if you see also the panel's report, there is a prima facie evidence based on different sections, Section 34.1 of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act. There is another section that was mentioned, 962A, 962B, which clearly shows that it's a prima facie case, as I said, that clearly shows there was inconsistency with his office and some sort of conflict of interest between his responsibilities as a public official, as a president, and his private business. So I don't think there will be crisis with the constitution. It's clear, and South Africa is a constitutional democracy. So the crisis should be with the president himself and probably also the ANC.
All right, let's also talk about the decision of the parliament. Now, we know for the longest time that President Ramaphosa has had the support of his party, and then the opposition party has always clamored for him to step down as regarding this issue. Now, but then again, let's see if the parliament decides to impeach the president. Which way do we see the political dynamics going in South Africa?
Well, with the National Conference coming in December, there will be these 80 members of the National Executive Committee and the top 6 leaders to be elected. and he is one of the top 6 leaders, and he is presumptively the president-elect. So what I can clearly see is it will affect the 2024 election, unless his campaign does something to salvage him as the president. But of course, the opposition also might take an opportunity in terms of garnering more votes in 2024. So the political dynamics definitely will change. The balance of power between the ANC and the opposition definitely will see some changes unless it's campaigned otherwise.
All right, Mr. Maimane, do you agree that the political dynamics will change if that is the situation?
The political dynamics have already changed. So I couldn't hear the last bit, but the truth of the matter is the elective conference that is coming up now in December is a referendum on the president's leadership. And whether or not, given what has already been uncovered on this issue, is where the president can hold the party together in the status that it is in. But ultimately, the elections in 2024 are a referendum on the ANC. And I really believe the people of this country need to realize that if we're going to have a rising Africa, a stable South Africa, it's going to be important that we have a leadership whose sole commitment is on nothing else but solving the issues of South Africa. If the president is distracted by sitting and having to worry matters of corruption, it will be improbable. That's why I'm calling upon a shared coalition that we can work with opposition and even sections of the ANC to build a transitional government that will keep the country stable over a period.
All right, political analyst Hermon Ogbamichael and opposition leader and founder of Build One South Africa, Mmusi Maimane. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time with us in the news.
Thanks for having me.